So I've been posting on Instagram the past couple days the start to a little bit of a timeline, a history of me getting started in the real estate business. I'm celebrating 10 years properly by looking backward and saying, how did I get here? How did all this happen? How am I so blessed? How am I so lucky? They say that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And so I want to share a little bit about my journey with you, 10 years in the making. You can check out my Instagram story and see it, or if you watch this whole video, you're going to get kind of the whole gamut of it. But 10 years ago, in September 2013, I got my real estate license. People ask, why? Why did you get your real estate license? Well, I got my license because someone I knew, not well, by the way, I just kind of knew her through a friend. She said, "Hey, you should get into real estate," and I listened. I think you should listen to people who are achieving things that you are yet to be achieving, but you want to be achieving, right? So when I met my KW sponsor who got me into the real estate business, she was a multiple, she had multiple businesses that she owned. And so one of the first books I remember her recommending to me was a book called E-Myth. And if you're familiar at all with E-Myth, it's probably a good time to actually go revisit. And if you are not familiar at all with E-Myth, then I encourage you to pick it up. E-Myth was written quite a ways back, but E-Myth is the entrepreneur's myth. It's what type of how small businesses don't work and what to do about it is the subtitle of it. And so I learned a lot about small business through this book, through Kristen, and I was looking at a few different options, but she told me, like, hey, real estate can provide a path for income generation that is just, really unheard of in a lot of other businesses. And so I knew that my level of customer service was strong. I knew that my level of detail organization was there. And so even without like a sales background, I knew that I could learn quickly, that I could implement quickly, and that I had the work ethic to match it. So I got my real estate license with her suggestion. The first full training that I went to, outside of just like my brokerage training, was a massive big event that someone named Ben Kinney held. Ben is now the co-founder of an organization maybe that you've heard of called Place. At the time, Ben was running the Ben Kinney team. He was traveling across the country, holding a seminar or a workshop, a conference. It was just a one-day event, if I remember correctly, called RE8 Expo. I don't remember what the 8 stood for, but I remember seeing and hearing and learning about thinking big. And from that moment on, I knew that one of the things I had to do was not limit myself, but to continue to stretch my vision into what was possible. And one thing I remember learning from Ben early on in that class was that if you don't build a 7-lane highway to start, then you're going to have a hard time ever growing large. It's one thing to pave a path for 7 lanes. It's another thing to pave a path for a 2-lane highway, right? If you build a 2-lane highway, then you have to go do major reconstruction down the road in order to expand it. But if you start with the end in mind, that I want to build a large business, I want to build a business that's easily able to expand, I want to be able to have systems, processes, standards, operating procedures, a map to the future, then you need to start thinking big, right? Like think in terms of width. And so that's what I gained from Ben the most, just the idea that in the early part of my career, I could start with a large vision in mind. So many real estate agents I coach, so many real estate agents I've hired over the years, and I've hired over 420. So many they just say things like, I just want to be realistic. They say things like, I don't want to disappoint myself. They say things like, if I can just learn my first year. Well, you're going to be learning every year. So you might as well learn and build at the same time, because there's no magic day in the future when everything is going to have been learned and then you're going to start implementing. So you have to, as we sometimes hear it, fail forward. So I began to build this business and built, a brand around it. Very simple, easy Fife real estate team. So I at the time I was branding myself as a team, even though I was a solo agent. I knew I wanted to grow something that could have like possibility for other people to be involved in that, right? And so Fife Real Estate Team was born in the first year of my business. One of my first listings was a for sale by owner. So picked up the phone, called a for sale by owner, took that listing, sold it. My second listing for sale by owner, that was an investor who needed to obviously sell the house because he had been flipping it. And I called him on a Friday night. No, I jotted his number down on a Friday night. I called him Saturday morning. He said, "Can you be here at 11 to meet me?" And I said yes. And I got ready and I went to that appointment at 11 on Saturday. He signed the listing agreement right then and there to list that duplex that he had been flipping. And then he called his wife and said, "Hey, I have this agent here. I just hired her to sell the duplex. Is it okay if I have her come and look at our house, like 30 minutes north?" Because they had been thinking about selling their primary residence. And so I went and met them at their primary residence 2 days later and listed that property. And so thus my real estate listing business began through for sale by owners and saying yes. So there's, one thing I can just leave you with that first 6 months or so of the real estate business is don't ever say no, and then make yourself available for being ready, right? Like if luck is where preparation meets opportunity, I was prepared. I was prepared for that listing appointment. I had been practicing my listing presentation. I've been practicing running comps. I've been practicing my scripts, my questions, and I was ready to go. So that was the first 6 months. The next 12 months kind of went by. I continued to build the business. I think the 4 C's you'll hear me talk a lot about. It's capture the lead, connect, that's number 2, connect with the lead, then cultivate, that's number 3, right? So capture, connect, cultivate, and then you earn the opportunity, number 4, to convert. So many agents try to hop from like capture or connect to convert, and they miss the whole cultivate step, and it's a super important step. Now it could last 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a day, 5 days, 5 months, 5 weeks. I mean, there's all kinds of timelines for that, but at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that you follow those 4 C's and that you are always closing for the next opportunity to offer value to them, and that when it makes sense for you to go on an appointment, a consultation, to ask them to hire you, that you've done everything ahead of time to earn the right to do that. So that was the first year, 18 months, sold 31 units, 5.4 million in volume. I chalk that first year up to following the models that I was taught. I'm not talking about the economic models I was taught. I'm talking about the sales models that I was taught. Things like listings drive your business, right? Go focus your efforts on finding listings. Find sellers who need to sell their property, and the buyers will come to you. Well, that could not be more true in 2024. So go take listings if you're watching this. Focus all of your training, all of your practice, all of your prospecting on finding sellers who want to sell and who are motivated to sell, and then find a way to help them sell. And if you do that right, and you market those listings right, then buyers will still come to you. And you can work with more pre-qualified buyers, more motivated buyers, on and on. So that next year, I focused on leadership. Okay, so the first year, if I was focused on learning how to prospect, how to focus on listings, how to get listings, if I was learning how to price properties correctly and close deals, Then the second year, I really chose to focus on leadership. I went to a couple different leadership classes in 2015. One was with Mark Willis, and the other was with Matt Fedek and some other leaders at the time that were in my organization or in my company. And I learned a lot from them in the classroom. I felt like I was kind of under their tutelage, so to speak. And I knew that what I was hearing in those rooms, I wanted to take back to Oklahoma City and build a team with those principles. And so I hadn't hired anyone up to this point. I had partnered with a TC who had sometimes served as like a pseudo showing agent or a buyer's agent when needed and when necessary. But it wasn't really a choice I was making to build the team until after I went to these leadership classes. So these leadership classes, they were called Recruit Select, RSTLM, Recruit Select, Train, Lead, Motivate. I heard things like loyalty does not mean conformity. And I heard things like you should feel great when people don't need you, like when your team doesn't need you. I heard things like sellers don't need me, they need the right person. I need to bring them someone as good or better than me. Mark said the point of education is action, right? So these are the kinds of things that I was learning underneath Mark. He said, when hiring someone, ask the question, would I work for them? Huge, right? Like it's a different concept when you go to hire someone and you ask the question, would I work for this person? Are they that sharp? Are they that smart? Are they that hungry? Are they that humble? Would I work for them? Because ultimately, when you're building a small business, that is what you're building a culture. And if you're not willing to partner or work for someone else that you're bringing on into your organization, then what are you really saying about them? What are you really saying about you? What are you really saying about the quality and the talent that you are bringing into your world? So that second year, was about leadership. It was about learning how to hire well. There's a system for hiring well. There's a process for hiring well. You don't have to just go with your gut. And I learned that, my first hire should be an executive assistant. Because if I was performing at 5.4 million, 31 units, then an EA should help me sell more, right? Double. One of the things that I learned during this time from these great leaders was that an EA's job is to help me go on more appointments, like period. It's to make sure I go on so many appointments a month or every day. And so that year I wrapped up 2015, not yet hiring. It was still just me and a TC that I was kind of off and on, so to speak, at the time. I sold 55 units at 9.6 million. And by that time I was starting to feel quite accomplished, but I knew it was still just me. And so it was time to put my feelers out for opportunities and other ways I could begin building and what we call sometimes succeeding through others. So the best thing that ever happened to me was in early 2016, I hired a full-time executive assistant, shout out Christina, and she 1000% helped me make more money. I remember like day one at the office that I was in, there at my local brokerage, and I walked into the office and, she comes in, it's day one, and literally that morning I'm on the phone with expireds and for sale by owners, and I'm letting her listen to what I'm saying to them and why I'm saying it to them. After about an hour and a half of calling, I set the phone down and I was like, well, so what do you think? And she's like, I get it. She's like, it makes sense why you're making these calls. It makes sense, what you're trying to accomplish. She was a note taker. She was just so sharp, so smart. She caught on very quickly. And by the way, for those of you looking to hire a full-time or a part-time executive assistant, that's what you want. You want someone who's going to catch on quickly, that you don't have to continue to ask over and over. Do you understand? Does that make sense? What can I do to explain it more? There's obviously a place for training, but there's also just innate ability to understand how the fundamentals of the business works. That if we go get clients, then we have contracts. And if we have contracts, then we have closings. And the way we get clients is we go prospect, right? So she understood that really quickly, helped me make a lot more money. In fact, in 2016, so she came on board January, February 2016, and we ended up selling a lot of homes that year. I think somewhere close to 75, maybe, because I know 2017, I'll get to it in a second, and it was the over 100 year. So 2016, we sell 75 homes. Me, Christina, and I brought on a buyer's agent later on in the year, like August, September. And that was exciting because, you know, I was able, in 2015, I was learning all these classroom kind of principles about hiring and about leadership and about who to hire and what to look for in talented people. And got an amazing executive assistant hire. And this buyer's agent, I didn't even know at the time I knew that I needed to start leveraging my buyers off to someone, right? There were agents in the office that I started to, you know, say, hey, can I give this buyer to you for a referral fee, or can you help me out with a showing for this client? Because I'm on track in 2016 to sell 75 homes, and, you know, 30 of those, 40 of those were listings. So, but that meant that 30 to 40 of those were also buyers. And for those of you who have worked with buyers before, you know that working with 3 or 4 buyers at a time can be a challenge, especially if you're trying to get them closed quickly and soon. So 2016 was a very, very busy year, both bringing on new people onto the team, continuing to work my listing business, continuing to work my my buyer business, and then having, you know, someone brand new to the business say, hey, I am thinking about getting my real estate license. I've been doing this thing over here. By the way, people like to ask me too, like, where do you find these people? Well, I had a strong network, right? I had a strong network of people who I had let them know what I was up to. They knew my vision, they knew my values, they knew my mission, and they were kind of putting their feelers out for different people who might be a good fit for me. So one of the things I jotted down from a class with Mark Willis was that you have to just start when you're looking to hire and build a team. You have to just start talking, and talk about what you do, talk about why you do it, and get to know people. And the ones who that like jives with and connects with will come to you, right? They'll get attracted to you. You know, he said, live a life of abundance and you'll attract the same. So I feel like that's what was happening in 2016, right? I'm having these amazing people come into my organization. We're having incredible success. And that first buyer's agent, Jennifer, who came on board, she's brand new, left a full-time job, you know, very successful in her previous career, had been having to work nights and weekends though, right? That her sales job previous to real estate was a lot of nights, a lot of weekends, and not being able to set her own hours. And that's a big deal, right? In real estate, we work a lot of nights and weekends, but we are still setting our own hours. We're still choosing it for ourselves. And that's different than a boss or a manager or an owner telling you have to be somewhere. So Jennifer came on board late 2016, and in her first full year with my group, she sold like over 40 homes that year. So 2016 was an incredibly successful year. It was an exciting year. I learned a lot. I'm giving you the highlights. I'm sure there were some misses, some mistakes. 2017 came along, and I knew, by the way, I always had a coach, okay? You know, shout out to Chris Lyon, who was my first kind of, I don't know, we probably coached for at least over a year and a half, I would think. He's the one who really helped me focus on what does it look like to be a listing agent. So even though I took listings, I was still working with buyers, right, until 2017. And I had my first buyer's agent. I genuinely and literally gave all of my buyers, or for the most part, I would say 90% of my buyers, to my buyer's agent. So my whole business needed to now be listings, right? So I needed to not just take another 30 listings, I needed to take way more listings. So in 2017, I was still calling for sell by owners, still calling expireds, still doing my follow-up every day, doing my script practice every day, focusing on my scripts, my dialogues, my follow-ups, just generating referrals, generating appointments. And because I had been doing that for now 3 years or 2.5 years in a row, I knew I could train someone to do the same. And the only way I was going to take double or triple the amount of listings that I had been taking was if I got more contacts in, right? So if I was normally contacting 10 or 15 people a day, I needed to be contacting 30 or 40 people a day. And with my schedule the way that it was, going on appointments and building the team and consulting and still doing my prospecting and lead gen and lead follow-up, I knew the only way to do that was to hire someone else to make those calls. Not for me, but in addition to me. So that's an important piece of that. I hired what we call now in the industry, or what we called then, an inside sales agent. So someone whose permanent full-time job was to call through the database. And also I hired an inside sales agent who also doubled as an outside sales agent. An outside sales agent is someone who's making outbound calls for sell by owners, expireds, neighborhood farming, just listed, just sold, etc. So that was Jordan. And so Jordan came on board and picked up very quickly everything that we had been kind of chatting about, and that I had been doing and I had been teaching her and training her on. And that year, 2017, with her on the phone, with me on the phone, with me going on appointments, we took 111 listings that year. So almost tripled my listing volume from the year before, from 2016 to 2017. And so many signs in yards, so many photographers out, so many lock boxes, so many open houses, so many, so much marketing going on. And, just know that behind the scenes, the only way that was ever able to happen was because everyone on the team had their role, right? My role was to take listings. Jordan's role as the inside sales agent was to help set listing appointments. Jennifer's role was to help all of our buyers and to follow up and to qualify buyers. And then Christina's job was to make sure that every part of the system was running smoothly, that our clients were happy, that our communications were on point, that our calendars were accurate and correct, that we started things on time, ended things on time, that we had all the marketing we needed, we had all the stuff that we needed to be able to run this business. So that was 2017, and what a fun year. We sold close to 125 homes that year. I think it was around 25 million in volume. And we call ourselves the core four, so to speak, right? The core four, me, Jennifer, Christina, and Jordan, just making it happen. So it was a lot of fun. I was still in coaching, still always going to training events. I graduated from multiple sales trainings, multiple times over. I think in a 4 or 5 year period, I went to, the same type of sales training like 6 times. Okay. So like a 4 year period, went to sales training 6 times. And I'm not talking about like 1 day sales training. I'm talking about like 8 week sales training, in addition to having a coach that I met with every month or every week and reported my numbers to and worked with, and in addition to practice and role play and script practice and all of these things. So if you want it, you can get it. You just have to work for it. And I wanted it, right? Like, otherwise I wouldn't have done any of those things. Always investing in other events too, right? Like I 2017 went to Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. I think 2018 maybe went out to Tony Robbins Business Mastery. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things I did, in 2017 and 2018 outside of just taking listings, because, one law that I believe is true is that how you do anything is how you do everything. And so part of my showing up in the world and showing up as a great agent it reflected how I showed up as a leader. How I showed up as a leader reflected how I showed up at home. How I showed up at home reflected how I showed up like as a sister and as a daughter, as a friend. How I showed up, in all of these aspects and ways, just really, it pushed me. I evolved really quickly through these efforts that I was making, because it wasn't just efforts like in my head, it was efforts in reality, right? I was changing my behavior. I was changing the way that I acted, the way that I spoke, the way that I spent my time, the way that I prioritized things. And from that era, like the 2017, 2018, I can't tell you how many countless car videos I did and shared with my clients and with my Facebook friends and, these different things, because I didn't actually ever have time to just sit in a studio and talk. I was busy out on the road. So I would just like set my phone on the, holder there in the car, and I would turn it on. I'd do a Facebook Live, or I would do a video and send out, or I would send one-on-one videos out to different prospects maybe that I was trying to convert. So I was taking advantage of all these little kind of like snippets of time that I might have, but they were mostly in the car. 2018, I really, let's see, I don't even know how old I was at 2018, but I started feeling like I wanted to share more and to train more, to speak more, to coach more, to hold more events. And so I built a short ebook that I started sharing out with real estate agents for free, just called Discovering Your Way, the Conscious Real Estate Agent. And it was really a book. It still is a book. You can download it if you'd like. I'll drop the link in the description below for downloading the ebook. The Conscious Real Estate Agent is really a book, very short, very short, about how to approach your real estate business from a spiritual perspective, and what does it mean to be someone who is like holistically healthy and wants to make a positive impact and stay grounded and focused during the times where it can be chaotic, where it can be just a lot to deal with, right? Because selling 125 units it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, even with a team, right? Like there's just a lot that you're managing, a lot that you're holding. And I found that even during the midst of highly intense times, that my spiritual practice was getting deeper, and that my reliance on flow, my reliance on the opportunities for connection with people and kind of these like magical moments, right, were increasing. And I just was falling in love with it. So that's why I wrote the book. I also, kind of along those same lines, built and began delivering a workshop, just like a half-day workshop called The Conscious Entrepreneur. And so this was designed for more than just real estate agents. It was designed for anyone in business for themselves, whether that's a network marketer or a small boutique shop owner or a restaurant owner, insurance sales, lawyers, wellness instructors, personal trainers, right? The Conscious Entrepreneur was, you're in business for yourself. Like, let's figure out how do you merge like evolution of your soul with the delivery of your business. And that led me to putting more courses together, more like online courses at this point, though. Just like little workshops, kind of group coaching style, a little bit more on the life coaching side. I think the events that I had with Tony Robbins really struck a chord with me in terms of like the wheel of life and being able to make sure that not just your business is going well, but that you're actually treating your finances smartly and wisely, that you are taking care of your health, you're taking care of your relationships, that you're living a life of no regrets. And so I began putting kind of just short group coaching experiences together in 2018 and 2019. Something did happen in 2018 where I began to realize that in order for me to go to my next level, I needed to have a little bit of a reality check. And through the coaching I was doing, I invited new voices into my world. I invited life coaches into my world. I invited kind of like I wanted a larger perspective. I was still in my 20s, right? I had built all this stuff in this business, but still in my 20s and hadn't fully unlocked like the power of who I was as just me. Everything I was doing was for external like show, so to speak, right? Even though it was a spiritual journey for me to build this business, it was also something that I knew I had a little bit more growing up to do. And I'm really grateful for 2019 because 2019 showed me that there's nothing more satisfying in life than trusting yourself, than trusting myself, even all the success. And I got invited, like, spirit invited me into just beginning to understand what it means to trust myself. So in 2020, I sold my real estate business to my lead buyer's agent. In 2020, I became an assistant team leader at a local KW Market Center. My whole business had been based upon, or had been built at Keller Williams, brokered by Keller Williams, even powered by Keller Williams to a certain degree, right? These ideas, these models, these trainings, these things that I was exposed to, I would not have had if I hadn't been at KW. They were out there, right? Well, there's different kinds of coaching, different things, but at the end of the day, like, that was the ecosystem that I was growing up in, that my business was growing up in. And so in 2020, I became an assistant team leader at a local KW office. No one knew, right? No one knew what was going to happen in March of 2020, and that was an invitation to me to step up my leadership for a larger group of people. The group I had been leading up in Oklahoma was four agents. Like, yeah, we would hire agents every now and then, but for the most part, it was the core four of us who stuck together and stuck with it. And so, in as the assistant team leader, this market center that I was assistant team leader for was, close to 300 agents. And so I had the opportunity to lead through COVID with the team leader, with the management team, and I learned a whole heck of a lot during that time. So between 2020 and 2023, I eventually became the team leader there at that market center and hired and trained agents, 423 to be exact. And so there's nothing that brings me more joy than being able to coach entrepreneurs, hire talented people and give them the tools and train them, on the tools that they need to succeed. And so that journey between 2020 and 2023 was extremely fun. It was extremely enlightening, very fulfilling. And now in 2024, I am able to jump back into what I believe is my calling around training, coaching, developing, getting back to kind of the being in the trenches, so to speak, with real estate agents and entrepreneurs, helping carve out the way for the future. And more than anything, I really believe we're here and I'm here to help write the story for the future, right? That as real estate agents and as business owners, there are so many creative individuals, so many passionate individuals, so many people who want to do, well in the world, not just for themselves, but for their community, for their loved ones, for their people. And, a lot of times real estate has been, even if you do have a good broker or a good team, it can still oftentimes at the kind of end of the day feel kind of like solo, right? It can feel a little lonely. It can feel a little bit like you're in a silo. You're either going to sink or swim because of your own choices. And though that may be true, I believe the future has an element of entrepreneurs working together to build the future, and that there is no future already established, that this is our time to partner up, to collaborate is the word that comes mostly to mind for 2024 and beyond. How do we support one another? How do we create new setups for sales and sales support? How do I help encourage personal brand? How do I help encourage more consistent marketing and messaging? How do we make sure that agents who are really good at being agents have the support systems behind them in order to implement and execute on a consistent basis? And how do we begin to sharpen one another in our tactics, right? In our skill set? How do we begin to set up these layers of value for each other that just by being a part of the ecosystem, we get better? And as a result of us being a part of that ecosystem and us getting better, then the people around us get better. Our clients are better, our families are better, our communities are better. So that is what I'm up to now here in 2024. I had no idea I was going to actually run through a 10-year history. I thought I might start and then stop and then come back and da da da, but that's pretty much the long and short of it. So if you're watching this before the rest of the clips come out on Instagram, then you just get the inside scoop, so to speak. There was a couple rebrands in there. I started off as Fife Real Estate Team in 2013, rebranded in 2015. Same team name, Fife Real Estate Team, but a different logo. And then in 2016, after hiring my executive assistant, we rebranded again because I wanted to get the Fife out of the team name. I really wanted it to be something more generic, something more accessible, where agents could feel like they could partner up with that brand without necessarily promoting me as an individual. Those were just my choices, right? There's no right or wrong. You get to write the story however you wish. But I hope that wherever you are in your real estate career or in your business career today, that you know there is still a lot of future left, and there is still much to do and many people to serve, and there's a whole world waiting for you to show up to it. Whether you're someone who's committed to, a certain kind of business or a different kind of business, there's enough need in the world that we need you, right? Whatever it is that you want to go serve, whatever segment of the market you want to serve, whatever customer base you are solving problems for right now or offering solutions to right now, we need you, right? So bring your vision to the table and don't stop failing forward, because that's the only way we get there.